Time to talk about setting up your own business now here on RNIB Connect Radio. We know some of the issues that blind and partially sighted people face when finding work, and of course there are some great programs out there to help, such as paid work placements and such like. One option might be to set up your own business and become your own boss. How easy might that be, and how accessible are the resources out there to help you as a blind or partially sighted person? Well, the British Business Bank have been working with the RNIB to make their online start-up resources accessible to blind and partially sighted people. With it being Business Finance Week next week and the focus on starting up your own business on Monday the 7th of November, I'm glad to say that Richard Berman, Managing Director, Small Business Lending, Start-up Loans from the British Business Bank, and Robin Spinks, RNIB Head of Inclusive Design, join me now to tell me more about these new online resources and working with the RNIB to make them accessible to blind and partially sighted people. Hello, Richard and Robin, and welcome to RNIB Connect Radio.
Hello.
Good morning.
Firstly, Richard, could you tell me a bit about Start-up Loans and the British Business Bank, what you do and how you help people to start up their own small business?
Yeah, of course. So the British Business Bank is the government's economic development bank, and our role is to help SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, ultimately access finance and access support. And Startup Loans it's essentially quite a simple product or a simple service that I think has a huge impact, and one that we're really very, very proud of. It supports startups, entrepreneurs in the early stage of their time and running a business, and that really supports people businesses that are up to 3 years old. And it is, as I say, government-backed. And what we do is we provide funding and support to the entrepreneurs, so they can borrow up to £25,000. There's no fee involved in it, and it's a fixed 6% interest rate. And they can borrow that up to 5 years. And that's to really give them that injection of funding at the start of the business to really get them launched and get them up and running. What we also do is provide a whole range of support around the entrepreneur to give them sort of the best chance of success. But things like sort of 12-month free mentoring and so on and so forth, and also business advisors to help them before they get the money, to really help them understand how you do sort of borrow and how it works, how cash flow works, how business plans work. And some of the entrepreneurs need that support, some less so, but really to make sure they get credit ready to get the funding and then give them every chance of success once they're up and running and hopefully growing over the coming months and years.
Richard, you've been working with the RNIB to ensure that the online resources are accessible to blind and partially sighted people. Was the accessibility of online information something that the British Business Bank had been aware of before starting to work with the RNIB? Did you have to make major changes, or was it just a bit of tweaking here and there with the online resources?
There's quite a lot of change involved. I mean, we're sort of proud of the progress we've made, although I think it's one of those things where you just, the more progress they make, the more you realise there's more to do. But we overhauled our website in 2020, which was probably the sort of a big step for us, and that was to meet the web content accessibility guidelines. And we're sort of constantly looking to optimise our websites to ensure they're accessible to everyone. We're working closely with RNIB to try and make sure that wide range of guides that I mentioned earlier, that they are available in a range of formats. And as we bring new accessible documents to the website, it's important that we sort of promote that and to try and help that accessibility. If there are specific things that people feel they require, then we have got that dedicated customer services helpline, and it's good to sort of get that feedback, and then that can help us see what we can do to support and improve the offering that we have.
And Robin, why is it so important for organisations like the British Business Bank to make their online information and maybe offline information accessible to blind and partially sighted people, and in this case for people who want to maybe start up their own business?
Well, every day 250 people start to lose their sight. They're told that nothing more can be done and that they face a future where their eyesight is severely reduced or perhaps disappears entirely. So you can imagine, really listening to this, the kind of frustrations that people might experience just trying to access everyday information, maybe applying for finance online or applying for support. So we're delighted to be working with British Business Bank to really make a step change in the way that people think about employment and careers, because traditionally blind and partially sighted people have, thought about work in particular ways. And what we're keen to do is to make sure that self-employment, becoming an entrepreneur, becomes a key part of this, so that, the whole spectrum of employment options that anyone might decide to pursue is as open as it can be for anyone with a sight problem. So it's about removing frustration, breaking down barriers, and promoting inclusion, and actually showcasing some of the people who have gone into business and who are really making a success of it.
Richard, if someone is listening now to our interview who is maybe thinking about starting up their own business, what are the main benefits of starting up your own business, and what are the sort of main pitfalls to avoid too?
Whenever asked these sort of questions, I always feel slightly like a fraudster because I've never done it myself. But I have spent a lot of time talking to entrepreneurs and working with them over the years. And I think the things that they talk about and they refer to is, I think a key is that flexibility and freedom of being your own boss, that ability to be in charge of the decision making and being in control. I think that's a key factor. I think also the other one is the real sort of, I guess, sort of psychological pleasure or energy that entrepreneurs tend to get, where they are taking their own, be it a hobby or knowledge or idea or interest or skill that they've got, and actually sort of creating some sort of personal benefit from it, whether it's sort of the ambition to then grow into the next sort of huge multi-billionaire, or whether it's just the ambition to have a sort of changed lifestyle or to change the sort of dynamics of the working week. Lots of different reasons to do it. But I think there's, entrepreneurs get huge sort of energy, I think, from being able to sort of convert that, as I say, skill or hobby or idea into something tangible. I think on the flip side, I say the pitfalls, I'm going to steal this. It was sort of, it's a phrase I heard from an entrepreneur, but I remember them saying it was amazing how many late nights it takes to be an overnight success. And I just thought that really says, for me, everything about sort of being a business person, that it's hard work. It is hard work, particularly in the early days, and a lot of that hard work is missed. And it can be sometimes sort of almost lonely because you're the person running the business. You might have employees, but they all look to you for decisions. So I think one of the important things is to have people around you that you can talk to, that you can turn to, be it sort of formal mentors or just friends that have a bit of an understanding, not necessarily of your business, but have that understanding of sort of businesses and how they work, and or having that a support infrastructure to help when perhaps some of the decisions don't turn out in the way that you hope.
And Richard, where can people go to find the accessible online resources from the British Business Bank, which have been made accessible to blind and partially sighted people by working with the RNIB?
Yeah, so it's really there's that great range of guides available on the Startup Loans website, and if you go to sort of Startup Loans through sort of obviously sort of internet, you can find under our section on support and advice a whole range of guides. And as I say, over the coming weeks, we're going to be publishing a lot more accessible guides in sort of digital braille, large print and audio. So the Startup Loans website and then support and advice.
RNIB is the UK leading sight loss charity, and we cannot promote or endorse commercial enterprises and their products. We want to work collaboratively with organisations to provide equitable opportunities for blind and partially sighted people who want to start up their own business. Well, thank you very much indeed, Richard Berman from the British Business Bank, and of course Robin Spinks from the RNIB here, for joining me here on RNIB Connect Radio and telling me more about the accessible online resources for starting up your own business.